It is Talking Reds. It's Neil Atkinson with Harriet Pryor. We will get on to Glasgow Rangers. We've got a clip coming from Team Talk as well. But we will start off with the news. And it's very rare this happens, Harriet. Normally it goes the other way around. Normally something dreadful happens that knocks the show out the water. But yeah, last night we did a tour unwrapped. It had me, Dan Austin, Phil Blundell and Mo Stewart. And we were talking about scheduling. And as part of that, we got into the round and we talked about the 3 p.m. blackout. The 3 p.m. blackout. And then overnight, it was almost like I knew on some cosmic level. News broke that the EFL, and this is a really important detail, the EFL would be into the idea of the blackout perhaps being scrapped. Some clubs, let's not act as though all the clubs in the EFL will all agree with each other, but there's enough of an interest in it from an EFL point of view to begin to put feelers out. First question is, what do you think of the 3 p.m. blackout as a young person, a designated young person?
I just feel like if people are going to want to watch, they'll find a way to watch. And you know, during lockdown, I know it's different circumstances because no one could go to the game, but it was just like you could watch whatever football game you wanted to watch, and that was a really nice and positive thing. And I'm just thinking about this purely selfishly. I have no idea what knock-on effect it would have on smaller teams and different leagues, but I just think if you want to watch a football game, you should just be able to watch it, and it just is really annoying. Like when I was away at the weekend and I couldn't watch Brighton play Liverpool, and I was quite happy about that come 90 minutes. But at the time I was like, I just want to watch the football game, and I'm just not allowed because it's 3 p.m. and it just feels a bit like a rule someone made once upon a time.
I know who made the rule.
Do you?
I know whose suggestion it was.
Ooh,
Bob Lord.
Right, okay.
Now, if you go to Burnley away, there is the Bob Lord stand. He was the chairman of Burnley, and the rule was created in 1962.
Is that how long it's been since?
And the Premier League was set up in 1992, and now we sit here in 2022, and the 3 p.m. blackout, Bob Lord's 3 p.m. blackout is still part of our lives.
Just not sure in the age of basically us being able to see everything on our phones, it makes sense anymore, does it? Like if you want to see any elements of any game or the whole game, you can just find a way to do it. You can find a stream, you can find something, you can find a way to watch the game, and you're just not allowed to on television.
I think it's interesting to the EFL who are mooting the idea of it moving on. Because it's meant to be in existence to help protect the EFL. That was always the idea. The worry was if people could run amok willy-nilly and screen Manchester United, Liverpool, other football teams. I mean, people basically in this country watch football for 3 reasons. Do you know the 3 reasons? There's studies on this. Big game involving the teams at the top, big game involving the teams at the bottom. Liverpool and Man United are playing.
Right.
That's it. That's the reason why people watch football in this country. Okay. It's one of the reasons why the wider sort of TV rights debate is quite complicated, but that is genuinely all the studies say that that's the case. So for me, it's interesting that it is the EFL. Now, Jordan, who's producing this Talking Reds, who this weekend went home to watch Linfield yet again concede a last minute. I think
it's too soon to be talking about that.
I've just got to inform the viewers of the fact that yet again Linfield conceded a last minute defeating goal. A last minute winner, I suppose you could say. But it doesn't seem right because Linfield emphatically sorry Jordan didn't win. Jordan's position, as he stated, was he worries. He's absolutely furious. Is that he's worried that it would lead to a crisis in lower league football. Now, I think the EFL know their onions.
What would the reason be for that happening, though? I mean, maybe that's naive of me to ask, but why would it cause a crisis? Because people wouldn't go to the games.
People wouldn't go watch Linfield. Okay. So the EFL here, so what's interesting about this is the EFL want to do this because they think they'll get a better TV deal. But that's not going to impact sides that are playing at the level that they play at in sort of first and second division football in Scotland, league football in Northern Ireland and league football in Wales. And I do think there is an argument that those clubs, you know, if you could watch, and this is where you've got to be careful, because it will be as, you know, the stuff that's still on Sky will be the stuff that's on Sky. But if you could watch Liverpool versus Brighton in Northern Ireland on, you know, whether it's via pay-per-view or LFC TV, would you do that or would you go and watch Linfield? And I think that's more of a question. I think the EFL clubs, so Bradford are a really good example. Bradford get gates of about 16,000 for their home games, which basically means there's 14,000 match-going Bradford supporters who for their away games can't watch the game. Max, because their allocation will be greater than 2,000. It'll probably never be even greater than 1,000 in League Two. So those people have got your problem. I want to watch Bradford play. Why can't I watch Bradford play, etc., etc.? But my worry, and I think it's a valid one, would be for instance, the Northern Irish League, where people might think, you know what, I'd rather watch Man United. I'd rather stay in ours.
But do you not think people will still make those experiences to have that real life interaction with football rather than just thinking, oh, Manchester United or Liverpool playing, I'm going to stay at home and watch that? I think even in the age of everything being digital, people still want to have those real life experiences where they go and watch a football game. But like with Liverpool women last season, it was so frustrating that we just basically couldn't watch any game that was, unless it was on their FA player thing or we were at the game.
And the FA player hated you and hated your way of life at
most
stages.
You couldn't really, it wasn't the best viewing experience. So you're stuck in a position where, okay, even if they were on though and there was another match I wanted to go to, I wouldn't just stay at home because it was on TV and available to watch. I'd still go to the live football game. But having that option to come back and rewatch it maybe, or to have an extended period of time where you can actually view the football game as it happened would be quite nice.
Indeed, Harriet Pryor, Tour Unwrapped was done last night. Do subscribe.
Probably with more insight than
no,
that.
No. That was good, and it was a good discussion last night on Tour Unwrapped as well, which got into more than just the 3 p.m. blackout. You know, I will write about this sort of thing, and there is more to come on it, and things all about it as well. What is interesting, I'll say it again, is it's the EFL who are carrying the torch for it all of a sudden, which makes me think it's possible that the circumstance will change. There's going to be team talk next. There's a little clip because we want you to download the app and subscribe. It'd be great if you could just give it some thought. Here's team talk.
Yeah, Neil, so would you be sort of going for ditching the 4 forwards, and if so, which 3 would you be starting up top?
Yeah, I think, as I've already alluded to, I like the idea of Darwin on the left, for this one particularly as well. And then I think Jota and Salah, it has to be for me. I know Firmino's among the goals, but I do think that he's been best off the bench this year, really, aside from perhaps Bournemouth, which was maybe a one-off. I think Jota, he's not quite found his scoring form. It's a long time, isn't it, since he's bagged as well, which is unusual because for so long he was such a regular finisher for us. His strike rate was as good as Salah's, I think, for a long time. So I think give him a go at number 9, give him a chance to get back among the goals, and then Salah, we've just got to find a way to get Mo more central. And even if it's a case of sometimes them interchanging that front 3, so you could, for example, have Darwin play 20 minutes on the left and then swap over with Jota, and you could try and bring, if Harvey does play, as said, and gravitates out to the right, then that gives Salah the chance to play in and form more of a front 2. Because I think any of us watching Mo Salah are just scratching our heads at the moment about how we've got the best attacking player in the country for the last 4 years, and he's nowhere near the goal. He's not involved in the action. He's not even getting off shots. Mo Salah can't be happy about that. I know I'm not. So there's no way Mo is.
YouTube, press the button, become a member of the Anfield Wrap from the heart of the city of Liverpool. The best way to enjoy all your Liverpool-based videos, everything you need, every single day. It is the Anfield Wrap. Look at that fella there in the summer when life was different, when we all felt different about things. The sun beaming down on our backs, Liverpool not being fundamentally shite. Glory days, they can pass you by. Glory days in the blinking of a young girl's eye. In the context here of Jordan Singleton and Linfield, as a point of information, they didn't get beat at the weekend. It was a 0-0 draw.
It was Craig Cannon false information. I don't know if you were going to say that live.
No, I was going to call him a fucking liar.
He literally he announced it to the office.
Oh,
that
yeah, and he had a story.
Last minute winner. He had a whole story about a newspaper. Someone he knew scored the winner for the other team. My mind is blown here. What's real anymore?
You just can't trust him. Can't trust the word that comes out of his mouth. Unfortunately. Thankfully, he's gone to Glasgow, so we don't have to have a remonstration with him right now in the office on this matter, although I am tempted to get Jordan to ring him and to go from there. Liverpool aren't fundamentally shy. Liverpool obviously showed, I think, at times in that first half, especially against Arsenal, that they're pretty good and are capable of being pretty good. They showed it last week against Rangers. The issue that you sort of have, Harriet, is the shooting themselves in the foot part of this, which I think is the theme of the season, and they really need to not do it tonight. I think they shot themselves in the foot first game against Fulham when Virgil gives the penalty away as an example of it. I think that there's a bit of, they shoot themselves in the foot against Palace, even though they're 1-0 down at the time and they actually play better, but when Nunez gets himself sent off, they shoot themselves in the foot against Manchester United. They shoot themselves in the foot against, you care to mention it, I've got another foot with another hole in it, and it's just got to be better tonight. They can't do it. If they don't do that tonight, they'll win the game. And I think that, Manchester City is a different thing. But if they don't do that tonight, they win the game. And that's you just need them to stop doing it.
Yeah, well, people talk a lot about individual mistakes, and some of the things you mentioned there obviously are individual mistakes. But I think they come from a lack of good decision making in key moments, a lack of composure, maybe too much pressure and a lack of confidence on the back of that. But a good example for me is at the weekend. I think it was the second goal we conceded against Arsenal when Trent should have just held his position, but instead, I think, because he's feeling like he needs to be seen to do something, he goes to the player. There's a huge gap in behind. The ball gets passed. we concede another goal. And all these little things, the lack of confidence, the building of pressure, the conversations around these teams lead to really bad decision-making in key moments. And if we just did a bit less of that and just realise that they're all really good footballers who know where they should be and what they need to do to win a football game, they'd be absolutely fine. I think that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? You're like, I know all of you can win a Champions League. I know all of you can win a Premier League, so why aren't you just doing the basics and going back to what you know? I think it'll be interesting who he puts out tonight in terms of who the team he selects. We obviously know Diaz is out now and Trent's out now. I want him to stick with the 4-4-2 or whatever you want to call it.
Do you?
Yeah, even with Diaz out, I think it did work when Firmino came on. I didn't like it when Firmino was playing.
Would you want him to stick with that to play against Manchester City? Because I think that feeds into what you do tonight.
Yeah, I think that is interesting, but then I just don't. I just feel like it looked a bit more fluid. It worked better, and even against Arsenal, we did lose the game. I did still feel like the football we were playing was better than we'd seen when it had been a 4-3-3 in the previous week. So I think there's an element of like, can you just stick with something for a little while, see if it works, give it a chance. But then again, if they play it tonight, they decide they don't like it without Diaz, then they've not had any work doing a 4-3-3 heading into Manchester City, which is just going to be a horrible game, and we know that already. So it's like, how is he going to balance those two things, the preparation and actually the form on the day?
So on that then, who do you want to see him pick? Do you want to see him just drop Firmino and because the other thing that does is it means he doesn't really have a sub. So what would you like him to do?
Would you be against him starting with that and then switching formation mid-game? Like, at half time you're saying, okay, let's bring, say Fabinho, one of Henderson or Fabinho is on the bench, then you bring them in at half time and you switch to a 4-3-3, so you have sort of a bit of a trial of both in a game that hopefully we should be dominant in from the start.
I think you could do that. I wonder if he wants to do it tonight. I would love to see
Carvalho's
Elliot off the right.
Really?
And Salah and Nunez as the front two.
So you'd have Jota
left.
So you have Jota on the left, Nunez,
Salah.
Nunez, Salah.
And Elliot on the right.
And Elliot on the right, interesting. And then you'd have who in the midfield? Henderson and...
I'm not that bothered.
One of Henderson, Thiago and Fabinho.
Two of those three, and if there's a fourth that you can pair him in there, I think that might be a nice opportunity to actually rest a couple in
then
there.
You still don't really have a sub, I guess. Firmino, then you have
you've got Firmino as a sub, you'd have Carvalho as a sub.
Yeah.
So you've got those two as subs for attackers, and then you can change it there. You'd have subs for midfielders, I think, in terms of what I've just sort of described, and then you'd potentially have maybe Robertson on the bench to do a little bit at the back, and then you've got Gomez as well. You're obviously going to have Nat Phillips on the bench, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see some Nat Phillips tonight if the game's going a certain way, and then go from there. That's possibly what he could do.
I think I feel more positive about that actually, because I feel Gomez will play a more defensive role than it would be if Trent was in that position. I think then you have that bit more of security when inevitably the other team do break, and we've seen what happens when other teams break at the moment. We've seen what happens when we get a corner or a free kick at the moment.
But I think I'd ultimately quite like them to have a little look at 4-3-3, because I think they're going to have to play
against City.
They're going to have to play three midfielders against City. I start with three midfielders against City. I think if they like how the game's going and feel as though they could shift it during the game, then I'm fine.
So start with that and then have the option to shift to the four attackers during the game. Yeah, maybe that makes more sense. You start with something a bit more secure, but then it hasn't provided that. In the first few games of the season, it didn't provide that blanket that you'd hope it would.
Exactly, but this is also why it's serious. Come the game against City, it's serious business. Like, it should have been more serious business against Arsenal. It's just they showed themselves to be in key moments deeply unserious people. I think you could say
the most frustrating people in the world.
Yes, but we need to let them off the hook of that now. I've enjoyed the manager kicking off. I'm into that. I'll have more of that, please. Kick off at me if you fill your boots. Kick off at who you want. I've enjoyed him kicking off. It's important that he backs them, and it's important that they know he backs them to the hilt. We can say what we want to say. It's important that that in key moments, us in the ground and him every single minute, they know they've got his full support in there, and that does matter. So I'm pleased to see him kicking off.
Yeah, I think you kind of need to see that from him, but also from all of the players. They need to feel angry about what's happening. They need to want to feel like they need to resolve that on the pitch. I was writing my column yesterday, and I was looking at the COVID season when we lost how many, was it 6, 7, 8 home games in a row, 6 home games in a row, and then we won all season. From that point, we didn't lose again all season. It's like, how did that happen when? The game, I think it was, who do we lose to? Was it Fulham? The 1-0 where it got the worst of times.
The Fulham Fulham was the last one and Burnley was the first
yeah,
one.
Fulham was the last one. I looked at the BBC article for that, and no player on that day was rated above 3.5 for their form. So, you know, all the things that we're talking about now, the form being off, the players looking fatigued, the defensive line didn't look good, Salah made the individual mistake, got depossessed, we conceded a goal. All those things they managed to eventually work out and then stay that way. It started with a 2-0 in the Champions League, building a bit of confidence. They built from there. It wasn't winning 9-0. It wasn't having to have these dominant games. It was just getting the confidence up in key moments, getting a good result, doing that again. And you know, you can point to all the defensive problems we had that year, but we hadn't scored a goal in open play from the start of the year until, was it
crazy.
March?
Yeah.
So now it's easy to look back and think, no fans, defensive shambles, but actually we weren't scoring either. But slowly but surely, little changes, little fixes, building of confidence, help things get back on track. And I just feel if they start to do that a bit now, get a good win tonight, build a bit of confidence. City's not the ideal opponent, we all know that, but from maybe next week, just have those
also maybe
moments.
from a siege mentality point of view, someone should put that in the comments there. Alistair Kennard, you know, has said about going full on siege mentality, and that's the point of this, and that's the key thing, isn't it? Yeah,
just building that mentality back and thinking, you know, I read Klopp's comments again from that period, and he said we just need to fight in every game. And I know he said that. He said we need to defend the shit out of everybody, and then we emphatically did not defend the shit out of Arsenal, but just
certainly not in the first 50 seconds.
No, exactly. Walked in 1 minute and we were 1-0 down. But yeah, just building up that mentality again, those basics again, and letting everything else flow from there. Because you can't out-train, you can't out-coach lack of confidence, you can't out-coach, you know, these things that are going on in individuals' minds, but you can coach the fact that they need to be playing more as a unit rather than 11 individuals on the pitch, which I think is what they look like at the moment.
There we are. Going to win tonight.
Yes.
There we are.
One word.
That's all you need.
I don't know what it will look like. I think it'll be difficult, won't it? But I think it'll be a difficult place to go, and the atmosphere and everything around it will be difficult. But I still think we'll be fine and get a result.
I think it'll soon come down to the ground tonight. The only thing that worries me mildly tonight is if a Rangers player in the first 20 minutes as a 30-yarder that goes in. Apart from that, I'll Red Star Belgrade. Apart from that, I think they'll be absolutely fine. I really do. I think they'll do the business tonight, Liverpool, no matter what team he picks, within reason. I mean, you know, if he picks me, then, you know, huge questions should be asked. But apart from that, you know, he's not going to, thankfully. I think he'll be absolutely fine, and I think it will be rocking at Ibrox. I think we can all know that and acknowledge that. You and Bertram's just said that in there, but it's all about not allowing a pot shot or a bit of luck to go Rangers' way. If it doesn't, Liverpool will win the game, absolutely certain of that. Subscribe, do whatever it is you fancy doing, to be quite honest with you. Harriet, Neil Atkinson, that has been Talking Reds on this Wednesday.